Okay, thank you for your patience. Minor technical difficulties. So purpose and polarity, and the critical role of purpose in your life, as well as the role it plays in healthy polarity in that hot, sexy polarity conversation. Um, so first, let's just start with purpose and why it's so important for people who, whether you're in business for yourself, whether what I used to say to myself is, in the absence of a God, where you put your service is in purpose, capital P. And it doesn't mean you don't have to, you have to be an atheist to believe this. I just have it that the function of who we are, once we've torn away everything else, is really to be of service to others. And purpose, especially if you're in business for yourself, especially if you're in this business or starting out in this business of personal development in some way, purpose is going to be the thing that gives you inspiration when you need it, and it'll be your life raft also, at times when you are wondering why you're doing it or why you're dealing with the things that you have to deal with in this particular business. So let's just start off with the qualities and characteristics of purpose, because a lot of people have purpose confused with mission or motivation or vision. And purpose is really that which moves through you, that's greater than you, and it has certain qualities. It's the largest game you can play. It has in one sense, it's the largest context. It's your ultimate concern. But there are a few qualities that are necessary. One is it needs to transcend context. So a lot of people have a purpose statement that's really contextual, and you want it to transcend any context, so that as long as you have another human next to you, you can be living your purpose. And mine had gone through several phases or revisions, and yours may evolve as well. Mine is simply to help accelerate the evolution of consciousness on the planet. And that's behind my work, and has been behind my work for 20 years now. And of course, I've been doing this full time for 16. And that's been my conscious and intentional purpose in all that I do. Now, I could also do that washing dishes next to somebody, and have, right? Like as long as I'm assisting in, with permission, and of course, and being of service to them, not wanting them to be a different way, but in terms of them wanting to accelerate their evolution. If we're in a conversation about it, then that's happening. I remember one time I went to University of Pennsylvania to give a talk, and at one point, the woman who was organizing it, she looks at me, and there was 3 or 4 of us that were going to, all in different approaches. And she looks at me at one point and goes, "Are you ever not on message?" And I said, "Well, I don't even know what you mean, because like this whole thing is imbued in my being. So it's not that I'm on message, because it's not that I'm tailoring myself to some message. It's that it's authentically coming through me as a manifestation of my life purpose. So for me, I didn't need to do anything. I didn't need to have, talking points or anything like that. And in fact, when I gave my 90-minute talk, I don't think I had any notes at all as a result of that. Just like I don't have any now, by the way. I know in my mind how I want it organized, and I wrote something earlier today about it. But what's important is that once you trust yourself enough, and once you are living your purpose, and again, has to transcend context, that can be infused in everything that you do. It has to be in service of other. And you've probably already been doing it. So one of the exercises I take clients through when we distinguish their purpose for them is I have a spreadsheet I walk them through. I tell them, or actually it's written out, some of the things that I just said. And then I have them come up with 3 points in their life when everything seemed absolutely perfect, when it just felt like, everything was in tune. They were somehow, they were with other people, and they were somehow in service of them. So we read out what the event was, and then what their role was as a metaphor. Like, they have to come up with a metaphor of who they were in that context, and then what was being served. And then from those 3 or 4 points in their life, we sort of synthesize out what the common theme is, and we come up with a purpose that's already there. Really, we just have to unearth it. And that's my belief about purpose. And that's been my experience working with people to distinguish it. It is the other great thing about purpose is it doesn't matter if you have a crisis of faith or not; it's always going to be there. And it doesn't rely on anything external to you other than another human who you would need to be in service of. That's ideal, but you don't need to, they don't need to be in the same room. You could write something, or that would be in service of other people. But what's important is that it's in service of other. It's not even if you get benefit from it, it's not something that's personal to you or your personal motivation. Even though you might get great results from it, you might enjoy the benefits of it. I mean, heck, one of the reasons I want to accelerate the evolution of consciousness on the planet is to make it a more hospitable environment for freaks like me. So, it's just if we have a society where all different types of people get to be themselves in the full spectrum of self-expression is okay, then it would be a much, much better world indeed. But that's not what my focus is. My focus is on being of service and accelerating the evolution of consciousness on the planet. I don't know what yours is. You may already know what it is. You might realize that what you've written down or what you have in your mind is really a mission statement, which is sort of a contextualization of your purpose. Or maybe it's a vision, what you want to create as a result of your purpose, but it's actually not purpose. Or maybe you already have one. But it's important to bear that in mind all the time. It is the thing that has you get out of bed in the morning. It's the reason, it's your ultimate why. So, and then when we get into the polarity conversation, the reason it's relevant there is, I saw a lot of these, especially, I saw a lot of these male, and even some female, but, male polarity coaches talking about how a woman should just and again, they confuse feminine with woman and masculine with man. Sure, agency and masculine is generally going to show up in a male body largely because of hormones flowing through our system. Testosterone has that agency, that penetrative, fuck it or kill it kind of thing behind it. And estrogen is going to inherently have communion. So there's agency and communion, masculine, feminine, but we all have some combination of that within us. And yes, women produce testosterone. It's produced by their kidneys, by the way. And there's just there is a confusion though. Like people are like, oh, well, divine masculine surrenders to the feminine. Sure, that doesn't necessarily mean surrender to a woman though. And I've seen it both ways misused by a lot of people and misused philosophically by a lot of polarity coaches. And also over contextualized. Sometimes it's just about sex and in the bedroom or going on a date. And then they want to bring it out into other areas of their life. And I'm not saying that if you want that conventional heteronormative way of being, that's not okay. You're welcome to do that. But if you notice yourself feeling like you're somehow constrained by that your expression is limited, your responsible expression is limited in some way, or you're feeling contrived or inauthentic, then it's something to look at. But let's put all of that aside, all those pre-frames, concerns, and caveats aside, and let's say that you really do want that. You want a hot, softened woman, penetrative, intense guy, spacious, right? You want that for a woman to feel safe enough and for her to trust a man enough to soften and open. There's a few things that need to be present. And first of all, she needs to be comfortable with your competence. If you're not competent in lots of things, it could be the ability to hold space for it, could be the ability to communicate through something, it could be just handling your shit in life, then she's not going to trust you. She's going to take over. It could be just picking where you're going to eat for dinner. She doesn't want to have to do that, but she wants the experience that she wants to have. She needs to know that you're going to be competent to provide that. I remember something about, there was a course I was attending, and some guy said that something about he wouldn't let her, she wouldn't let him choose a date, right? How their date's going to go. She wouldn't let him plan a date. And it wasn't that she was controlling, is that she didn't trust him to do it, to create a positive experience for her. She had enough information about him to know he's not going to be able to provide, enough of an experience that she's going to want to. Oh, it's surprises. My apologies. Surprises. She didn't like surprises. It's not that she doesn't like surprises. It's that she doesn't trust you to do a surprise that would be pleasurable for her. Right? She doesn't think that you have enough information or that you don't know the kind of experience. Like she does. Basically, it's a sign of her not trusting you if she doesn't like surprises. Or you're going to embarrass her in some way, which again is the same thing. Like if you're competent to do it, doesn't mean you can handle the logistics. It does, but not just that, but also that you're going to provide the kind of experience that she wants to have. The reason that purpose is so critical in this is that, again, back to these polarity coaches, what I've seen from a lot of them looks fairly pathological. It looks fairly toxic, and it looks like it would not be sustainable because especially these guys, and some of the women too jump on this. The guy's like, well, you should surrender because I'm the masculine. Or a woman does the same thing, like a man should surrender to the divine feminine. Maybe. Or maybe that's just a way to control people, right? From both sides. It's not a healthy dynamic that I've seen a lot. Where it can be healthy, where it can be hot, where it can be sexy, is if you are living your purpose, which means spirit's flowing through you, which means you have something larger than yourself that you're up to. It means that you are in service of the planet in some way. That's very sexy. And if you combine that with having exquisite attention on her, purpose and polarity arise, and that's part of your column of iron and light as an evolutionary gentleman, then we're talking about heaven being fun. But in our current, I don't want to call it an environment, but our current stage of evolution, as I've written before, polarity is much more complex than a black and white situation. It's going to be contextual. It's going to go from rigid to flexible to fluid. And some people want to contract and regress to these previous stages where, we're in a more rigid construct, a more prototypical, conventional construct around masculine and feminine relating. It is a response, a reaction to some of the chaos that's occurring and some of the uncertainty that's occurring because of the gender conversation, because of just as we come to terms with the vast spectrum of human expression. They have a choice. We all have a choice to either expand and embrace new differences, which is essentially the nature of evolution in terms of personal evolution, is to take on an ever-increasing number of perspectives and to build that capacity to understand, even if you don't agree, to be able to step into their shoes. And that kind of flexibility requires you to continually expand your map of reality. The other option is regression, contraction, closing down, digging in. And that's what a lot of this is looking like in the polarity conversation. So I want to really just caution you, when I talk about polarity, I never mean all across the board in a relationship. That's not a partnership. That's something else, And I think a lot of these people, whether they're male or female, man or woman, and wanting to, and they talk about polarity, there's a lot of control dynamics that I simply does that shit like the Matrix, as they say. But you can have that stage 3 hot polarity that's contextual, that's fluid. And there's a lot more play and a lot more fun there, but it requires the embracing of difference. But what keeps it healthy is to have your true north be purpose. And then polarity is a lot of fun and a lot of play. And it can be full of love and full of hotness and full of intense animalistic. It can have the full scope, the full range. Well, that's it for now. Thank you for allowing me to contribute to you. Thank you for watching. And as always, you can reach me through evolutionarycompanies.com. And very soon, evolutionarygentleman.com. So not quite finished yet, but it will be soon. May you have health, success, and fulfillment.